Hi there everybody, on today's video I have this Toyota Avensis. This is a 2006 and on today's video I'm gonna be changing the front brake pads. So I'm just gonna start by opening the brake fluid reservoir. So I'm just going to leave that like that, and then we're going to need to jack up the car and remove the front wheels to tackle those brake pads. Okay, so having jacked the car up, in my case I'm using a ramp, but I remove the wheel, so it's just the 5 studs in there. And the locking wheel nut that you need to remove, get the wheel off, and we have our pads sitting in there. Now what we need to do is so what I've done is I just turn this that way, so it's a bit easier for me to remove the bolts. So what we need to do is remove this bolt here, and that bolt there is a 13 mil. So we just need to crack that open, which I've already done. So this car is a bit corroded. I think it used to be somewhere in the south or close to the sea. Anyway, if we get that bolt off, I'm gonna use a flathead screwdriver, and I'm just gonna wedge it against the disc here, or against the disc or the old pad, basically to push the piston here back. We can lift the caliper a little bit now that we've loosened the bottom bolt to get some access here. Okay, and slowly, without damaging anything, we can push that piston back. So that piston there will be going in as we move the caliper towards us. Okay, now we can lift the caliper up, like so. You can just leave it up there. Now we have our pads here. These pads, they still have a very small amount of material here, but this particular person drives quite a lot of miles, and if we don't change them now, he will need to come back in a month or so, so it's not very practical, which is why we are changing them now. So they are running low for sure. Now just make a note of how they came out. So you have this pad is on that side with that little metal bit there, and this one is on that side. So when you get your new pads, you will fit them the way they came out. And we also have some little metal real mounts here. The pads sit on this metal mount. So sometimes you get, or normally you get new ones of these with a new set of pads. But if you didn't for some reason, then you could just clean this up and refit them. I mean, they're not tragically bad, they're just dirty, but they're not corroded or anything. So there will be 4 of those. Can just remove all 4 to give them a good wire brush clean, and there's another 2 up here. Okay, this, if you loosen it like so, then you can slide it out. Just it's got a little clip that goes into a little rail here to keep it secure. This disc is a little bit corroded as well, but I'm guessing that's just from before. The actual disc is not too bad, but it's getting a bit corroded here. I think next change of paths will also require some discs. Now I have a wire brush here, for which I'm gonna use to just clean this area a little bit. And I'm wearing a mask, by the way, just to avoid breathing any of this dust that will come out. I mean, it might be that your caliper will be in better conditions, depends where you live and how often you wash the car and get the salt off and stuff. Just giving the actual caliper a clean as well. Now, using some brake and clutch fluid cleaner, I'm just gonna rinse the calipers from some of its accumulated dust. Okay, so the procedure will be exactly the same for the other side. You just remove the bottom bolt, 13mm, lift the caliper up, so remove the 13mm. You can wedge a screwdriver again to push the piston back. Then put the caliper up and remove your pads, remove the little metal clamps, and clean them. If you get your new ones, then that's much better. Wire brush it and pretty much ready to refit your new pads. So I just normally apply a little bit of copper grease to the piston area here. And mainly to avoid corrosion forming around here. And also on these ends, these bits sit on the pad, and sometimes it helps with the squeaking. Some brakes can squeak, and if you put some grease on these areas, it helps not with the squeaking situation. But if you get good quality pads, they don't normally squeak anyway. Make sure that when you refit your pads, you don't get any of the grease on the actual material of the pad, because then that will go into the disc, and it can affect the braking efficiency a little bit until it wears out. Okay, now I'm just waiting for my new pads to come, and we'll carry on with the video. Okay, so I've got my new pads now, and I didn't exactly get new little clamps, so I'm gonna have to reuse the old ones. And I applied a little bit of copper grease on this area where this metal mount sits on. And also I cleaned the clips. A little bit. So these clips can only fit one way really, because they have a bit that's sticking out. The bit that's sticking out has to go away from the disc. So if you try to fit it the wrong way around, it just won't fit, because it will hit the disc. So I have this bit here, and that bit just it wouldn't fit on this side, because you wouldn't be able to fit it And when you fit it, make sure that there is a little flap sticking in on this metal clip that goes into the groove in here. So I fit it usually that bit down first, push it in and then push the back. But also you need to make sure that that bit there goes on the side. You can just hit it there a little bit so it sits nicely inside. Just make sure they're all sitting in properly. And again, I'm just going to apply a little bit of grease on these metal clamps, just on the edges. So I'm just doing it at the top. Try not to get the grease on the disc. If you do, just wipe it off. Right, so now we can fit our pads. And then we can lower the caliper in there. If the caliper doesn't fit, it's because the piston is come out a little bit again, and we just need to push it back in again. And for that we can use one of these wrenches. So I'm just getting the piston there against the back of the caliper, like so. And I'm just gonna press on that. Okay, so that's gone in there quite nicely now. And again, we can just lower the caliper, make sure this bit down here fits in. Get your bolt. And screw it in there, and again, with some new pads they give you a new bolt and the new metal mounts, but for some reason this set didn't come with any of those. Maybe it's a cheaper set, I'm not sure. Anyway, so I'm just tightening my bolt here. This is only a small bolt, so it does not require a lot of force. And that's it. So now we can put the wheels back and close the brake fluid reservoir, and we're pretty much done. So what you need to do is just when you get in the car, press the brake a few times to get the calipers out, because the pedal will go all the way in and it will feel a bit weird. So you just need to pump it a few times before you drive, and that's it. So well, I hope this video helps. Thanks for watching.